"Sir, you're under arrest for trespassing on your own land." That's what the officer nearly said. Until I calmly handed him my property deed. The truth is, one woman had been tormenting our entire Lake Serenity community for months. Brenda Carmichael, our very own HOA Karen, loved nothing more than calling the cops on anyone who dared to live without her approval. She threatened to sue me for $50,000, filed false reports, and even attempted to bribe county officials in an effort to drive me off my own property. But here's the twist. She had no idea I was the landlord of the $800,000 mansion she was renting. Picture this: dawn breaking over Lake Serenity, pine needles mixing with the misty morning air, when suddenly blue police lights reflected off my grandfather's old cabin. 2 squad cars rolled in over the gravel, and there she stood. Brenda, in a bright pink bathrobe, pointing at me from her deck like I was some criminal mastermind. "What would you do if someone called the cops on you for fishing on your own land?" I'm Marcus. 3 years ago, after 20 years in military logistics and a brutal divorce, I thought I'd finally found peace. I had inherited my grandfather's cabin, a humble 1960s frame, sitting on 2 acres of heaven in Minnesota. Every morning I woke to loons calling across glassy water and breathed in clean air that erased the memory of 2 decades of diesel fumes from army trucks. For 2 years, Lake Serenity was exactly what its name promised. 47 properties scattered around the shoreline, a mix of locals and summer families, all following one unspoken rule: wave at your neighbors, help when needed, and otherwise mind your own business. Then Brenda arrived. She bought the biggest, gaudiest house on the lake, a suburban McMansion that looked like it had fallen out of Dallas and landed in the Minnesota woods by mistake. Within a week, she was cruising the shoreline in her pontoon boat, introducing herself as if she were royalty. On the surface, she was sugar, sweet, but behind her smile was ice. The first morning she confronted me, I was sitting on my dock sipping coffee. I heard the rumble of her overpowered pontoon cutting through the calm water. "Yoo-hoo, labor!" she called, her voice carrying across the lake with all the charm of a tax audit. She docked, pulled out a folder with dramatic flair, and introduced herself as the president of the Lake Serenity Homeowners Association. According to her, my rustic cabin and fishing gear weren't up to community standards. I set my coffee down hard. "What homeowners association?" I asked. Her smile cracked. "The one protecting our property values from declining influences. That aluminum boat has to go." I almost laughed. My grandfather's 1995 fishing boat had caught more meals than her luxury pontoon ever would, and my so-called messy gear were his hand-carved rod holders and tackle box older than she was. I told her firmly, "This land has been in my family for generations. My deed has no HOA restrictions, and it never will." Her eyes turned cold. "We'll see about that, soldier boy." She gunned her engine, leaving behind fumes and the stench of expensive perfume, her wake spilling my coffee as she sped back toward her mansion. That was the moment I realized this wasn't a neighborly disagreement. It was the beginning of a war. 3 days later, an envelope appeared on my door. Inside was a violation notice demanding $500 for failing to meet dock aesthetic standards. It looked official: legalese, seals, and threats of property liens. But it was worthless. No real HOA had authority over my land. Still, something didn't sit right at the county courthouse. I spoke with Dolores, a veteran clerk who knew more about property records than any lawyer I'd met. She confirmed my suspicion. My deed was clean. No covenants, no restrictions, no HOA power. But digging deeper, I uncovered Brenda's real scheme. She had incorporated a fake HOA with just 12 members out of 47 properties. And behind the scenes, her company Carmichael Holdings LLC was quietly buying up cabins and turning them into illegal vacation rentals. The same woman lecturing me about community standards was the one destroying them. I went back home, fired up Facebook, and posted a simple question. Has anyone else received violation notices from the Lake Serenity HOA? Within an hour, my phone exploded. Stories poured in. Elderly widows threatened over bird feeders, families bullied over mailbox colors. A retired librarian named Janet had documented everything in a binder. Tom from the marina shared photos of Brenda's bounced checks. Even Florence, a 90-year-old neighbor, reported strange late-night activity at Brenda's so-called family rentals. I created a private group chat, the Lake Serenity Truth Squad. If Brenda wanted war, she was about to find out what happens when you underestimate a veteran. Janet, our librarian friend, was documenting everything, like she was preparing evidence for a war crimes trial. But the real clue came when she noticed Brenda constantly glancing at her expensive Rolex and fidgeting, as if time itself was pressuring her. During a break, Janet overheard Brenda on the phone, whispering sharply, "The money is coming. These people are more stubborn than expected, but I've got new methods. Whether it's legal pressure or using code enforcement, I'll do whatever it takes." That was the moment it all clicked. This wasn't about community standards or property values. Brenda was under financial strain. Harassment and intimidation weren't just power trips, they were her business model. I'd seen this pattern before in the military. People under pressure cross lines they never thought they would. The real question was, who was pulling her financial leash? The answer came quickly. Her lawyer, the same one who sent me threatening letters, wasn't a property attorney at all. He specialized in foreclosure defense and debt collection. That's not who you hire for neighborhood disputes, unless you're drowning in debt. So I launched my counterattack. I filed a harassment complaint against Brenda for false reports and misuse of county resources. Then, I contacted the actual landlord of the mansion Brenda was renting. He was stunned when he learned his tenant was running illegal rentals, violating her lease, and stirring up lawsuits under his roof. Sheriff's Deputy Rodriguez, who had already been tracking her endless complaints, pulled me aside and said, "No criminal charges yet, but she's walking a very thin line. We're watching." That night, as I sat by the lake with my coffee, I realized Brenda had made a huge tactical mistake. She thought she could bully everyone into silence, but instead, she had united the entire community against her. The next morning, it escalated. Police sirens broke the dawn silence. Blue lights flickered across my cabin walls as officers arrived, responding to yet another false report. "Mr. Marcus," one officer said, "you're accused of threatening a woman and trespassing on private property." I calmly invited them in, offered them coffee, and pulled out my secret weapon: documentation, property deeds, legal records, harassment complaints, and even bribery evidence from a code enforcement officer she had tried to pay off. The military taught me one thing: paper trails win wars. Sergeant Peterson watched security footage of me helping an elderly neighbor carry fishing gear while Brenda filmed me from her window, like some bargain movie villain. He muttered under his breath, "Either you're the politest criminal alive, or someone's feeding us lies." Just then, my phone buzzed. Dave Morrison, the private investigator I had hired, delivered his report. Brenda owed $47,000 to a previous HOA, had multiple unpaid contractors, maxed out credit cards, and was running illegal short-term rentals to stay afloat. Neighbors piled on with their stories. The marina owner revealed unpaid dock fees. The hardware store showed me footage of her disputing charges after taking supplies. The pattern was undeniable. Brenda thrived on intimidation and fraud. Finally, an officer told me, "File charges for false reports. We're done being her personal police force." A few days later, my lawyer Arthur, an old family friend, uncovered the final twist. My grandfather had set up a trust, and as the beneficiary, I was actually the majority owner of several properties around the lake, including the mansion Brenda was renting. That meant Brenda had been paying rent to me for 3 years, while trying to evict me from my own land. Arthur drafted an eviction notice citing multiple lease violations. We gave her the option of mediation, but if she refused, eviction would be swift and legal. Instead of backing down, Brenda escalated. She created fake online profiles to smear my name, sabotaged my boat caught on HD camera, and even tried bribing town officials. All of it was documented and forwarded to the district attorney. Meanwhile, our Truth Squad had grown from 15 neighbors into a united front of the entire community. We tracked every harassment, every violation, every scam. At the next town hall meeting, the truth finally came out. In front of the whole community, I revealed the evidence. Brenda was not the savior of Lake Serenity. She was a tenant, a fraud, and now an evicted rule breaker. The crowd erupted into applause and laughter. Brenda's lawyer scrambled to make excuses, but no one was buying it. I held up the 30-day eviction notice, and the room went wild. Within weeks, Brenda was gone, fleeing to Florida, leaving behind unpaid bills, legal battles, and a shattered reputation. Lake Serenity breathed again. We formed a real community committee, started scholarships for local kids, and funded conservation projects. For the first time in years, peace truly returned to the lake, and I realized something simple but powerful. Documentation beats intimidation. Unity beats bullying, and truth always wins.